and welcome. I am Gimba Umar. Tonight, Nigeria's economy bounces back from 2 consecutive GDP negative indicators since beginning of 2015. The inflation rate also drops. Former EFCC boss jets out of the country for medical attention abroad. Shuns invitation to make appearance at the Senate over alleged fraud. Federal government rules out reduction in pump price as Minister of State for Petroleum Products directs the DPR to give out for free petroleum products of marketers engaged in hoarding. And global outrage after Paris attacks. French police begin search of suspects' premises.
On business news, small-scale rice farmers get a 20 billion naira boost from the federal government.
And on sports news tonight, Moses Simon and Efe Ambrose steer Nigeria into the final qualifying round for the 2018 FIFA World Cup held in Russia.
We'll begin tonight with some cheery news from the government. Nigeria has reported its first economic growth as measured by the gross domestic product, GDP, in 2015. Data released today by the Bureau of Statistics shows GDP growth of 2.84% in real terms during the months of July to September. The GDP figures, however, was lower than the 3.38% recorded in the same period of 2014. In aggregate terms, the third quarter 2015 GDP stood at 24.313 billion naira at basic prices. The data shows the oil sector grew 1.06 in the third quarter, better than the second quarter by 14.35% and contributing 10.27% to Nigeria's total real GDP. Total agriculture output was higher by 3.46%. The manufacturing sector shows a 4.80% growth, while trade and services grew by 14.68% in nominal terms during the period under review. And petrol stations that engage in the hoarding of products are in for a rough deal, as the Department of Petroleum Resources has been directed to dispense petroleum products belonging to defaulting marketers free of charge to the public. This directive was given by the Minister of State for Petroleum, Dr. Kachukwu, during a tour of some petrol stations in the nation's capital, Abuja. He gave the assurance that the process for subsidy payments to oil marketers is in progress. Dr. Kachukwu added that the NNPC will deploy all its available resources to end the ongoing panic buying of petrol and dismiss the rumor of a possible reduction in petrol pump price.
The President has approved the payment of marketers, but realize that there's a procedure that requires that to go to the National Assembly. The President has written to the National Assembly. I've had occasion to talk with the Senate President. He's working with his team to ensure that something is done about that. It's all part of a process. The process has got to be followed. But marketers, I've assured them they're going to get their money. And it's going to, I'm sure within the next 1 week, 2 weeks, once we finish with the Senate, this will be done. The President is looking at shorter ways to intervene. Once we get the Senate concurrence, even if the approval for the extra budgetary allocation or approval hasn't come, the President will authorize CBN to release the funds. So we've made provision for the money. We've gotten the approval out of the executive, but we require a process of going through the legislature. We just don't spend money that way. We're a process-driven organization and country. I can be very clear, there is no reduction coming. Frankly, sustaining subsidy at the rate where we are is a major problem for the country, and it's only happening through the magnanimity of the President. We're looking at the price modulations. By January, you will have a price modulation dynamics that will enable us to address the critical issues for the marketers. But the issue of price reduction is not in the horizon at all, and I need to make that very categorical. So I'm instructing most stations to stay open for 24 hours. The police will provide protection for them. I'm expecting majors to move in and supply products and take responsibility for their own filling stations, just like we are taking responsibility for our own filling stations as NNPC and our retail outlets. I've also instructed DPR as they proceed that any station that has a product and people are hoarding, They should sell all the products for free to customers who are out there, and we're going to impose very serious penalties on that same station. So stealing them is not the answer. It is penalizing them when they do this. So I hope the message goes out loud and clear. I urge Nigerians to be a bit patient, stop panic buying. People are getting product, going around, turning it out of fuel tanks and filling up, coming right back into the queues. There's no need for the panic buying. There is product we're going to get to everybody, so let's take it easy.
Minister of State for Petroleum, Ibeka Chukwu. In the meantime, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, has ordered the arrests of persons indicted in the interim report of the Investigative Committee on Arms Procurement. The order is in a release issued by the advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina. The committee discovered that budgetary interventions in local currencies amounting to over 640 billion naira and foreign currencies of about $2.2 billion were siphoned by those entrusted with national security. Even more disturbing, according to the statement, was an award of contracts to fictitious companies by the Office of the National Security Advisor, Colonel Sambo Dasuki. The former National Security Advisor, Colonel Sambo Dasuki, resulting in wastages and thefts of funds. The federal government vows that all those who have been indicted by the committee will be rounded up and prosecuted. The press release also says that a contract for the purchase of 4 Alpha jets, 12 helicopters, bombs and ammunitions were approved at the heart of the insurgency war in the northeast, and up till date there is no inventory of these supplies, and that indeed the contract was not executed. The House of Representatives has directed its Committee on Banking and Currency to investigate issues of casualization of staff and the discriminatory practices against female bank workers with a view to ending the practice. The directive followed an extensive debate among the lawmakers, some of whom opposed the motion, saying that it was a contractual agreement between the employers and the banks. But the majority had their way at the end when the matter was put to a vote and the motion was approved. After so much force and media hype given to the probe of the former EFCC chairman, Mr. Ibrahim Lamurde, he has failed to show up today at the Senate, as his lawyer says that he is out of the country on medical treatment. At a meeting with members of the Senate Committee on Ethics, lawyers to the former EFCC boss, Mr. Festus Keyamo, informed the committee that his client has gone abroad for medical treatment. Mr. Lamurde was expected to appear before the Senate Committee on Ethics for allegations of mismanagement of funds recovered from suspects in cases handled by the EFCC during Mr. Lamurde's tenure. Mr. Keyamo asked the Committee on Ethics to give his client, Mr. Lamurde, 1 month to conclude with his medical treatment before appearing before the committee. However, the committee has rejected the request, insisting that the former EFCC chairman, Mr. Lamurde, must appear before the committee next week, Tuesday, November the 24th. The trial of 5 persons suspected to be masterminds of the October 2nd, 2015 bomb blast in Kuje and Nyanya, 2 satellite towns of Abuja, has been stalled following the inability of the Nigeria Prison Service to produce the accused persons in court. At the resumed hearing of the case filed by the federal government against Abdulaziz Muhazab, Ishaku Salihu, Muhammad Jumo, Abdul Wahid Nasiru and Abdullahi Nasiru, the prosecutor, Muhammad Diri, expressed regrets that the accused persons and the officials of the Nigeria Prison Service were absent from the court. He explained that the absence of the accused persons may be due to the fuel scarcity being experienced at the Federal Capital Territory. Lawyers to 3 of the accused persons, Mr. Nureni Suleiman, however, prayed the court to ensure an accelerated hearing, saying that the liberty of the accused persons is at stake. Mr. Diri, who informed the court that he has filed an application for the protection of the witnesses, however, promised to ensure that the accused persons are present in court at the next adjourned date. The trial judge, Justice Abu Kafariti, subsequently adjourned the case to December the 17th. It may no longer be business as usual at the prisons, as the Minister of Interior, retired General Abdurrahman Dambazo, has warned officials of the prison service against unnecessary delay in presenting accused persons in court. General Dambazo, who gave the warning at a summit on the state of prisons in Nigeria, organized by the National Human Rights Commission in Abuja, called for urgent decongestion if the nation's prisons are anything to go by. He decried the increasing number of awaiting trial inmates and the inhuman treatment they face.
Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa saddle with problems of prison congestions, excessive use of force during arrest of suspects, torture, unlawful detention and abuse of prisoners, among other issues. To redress the situation, the Minister of Interior has warned prison officials to be alive to their responsibilities.
I want to warn you that you must take your responsibility very serious, because if you don't, then I will show you the other side of it. Those who are given the responsibility of taking care of our prisons and prisoners, you all must change your attitude.
For the Controller General of the Nigerian Prisons Service, it was a moment of lamentation as he enumerates the challenges of the service.
We have only about 258 vehicles serving over 5,000 courts in 774 local government areas in Nigeria. We have our human resource challenges, that is the staff that take care of these inmates. Actually, our establishment provision is about 45,000 staff. However, we have 28,065 officers.
The Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission used the occasion to advise the federal government against swapping of prisoners.
By calling on the federal government of Nigeria to review the transfer of prisoners agreement existing between the country and some other countries today because of the rising human rights implications. What is happening is that most of these people who have been transferred back to Nigeria have families in the countries where they are.
The Prisons Reform Conference, according to the organizers, is aimed at exploring new efforts at reforming the sector in a bid to proffer effective and sustainable solutions.
And in part two, after the break, Inspector General of Police meets squadron leaders and commanders over Kogi elections, gives assurances of free and fair exercise. Stay with us.